Touting tax reform, former Council on Economic Advisors Chair Kevin Hassett and former National Economic Council Director Gary Cohn arguing in the Wall Street Journal that, quote, tax reform has delivered for workers. The two ex-Trump officials pointing to wages, job participation rising in the last 2 years. Let's bring in Kristin Tate, analyst at Young Americans for Liberty. So, Kristin, your take on the argument that the gentlemen are making.
Yeah, it's great to be with you, Jackie. The data is undisputable here. The lower the taxes, the more prosperity for hardworking Americans and the more economic growth. Real disposable income increased $6,000 per household since the tax cuts were put in place. We've seen workforce participation really grow. Remember, under Obama, when he increased marginal tax rates, that workforce participation rate really plummeted among most age groups. We've seen a complete reversal of that. Democrats will say that the growth we're seeing is just a continuation of trends that were already put in place, but that is simply not true. A lot of the growth we're seeing far exceeds expectations. For example, in January 2017, the CBO predicted about 2 million jobs would have been created by now, when in fact the economy has created 7 million jobs. At the same time, the Federal Reserve predicted a 5% unemployment rate. That is 1.5 percentage points higher than the current 50-year low. So all of this is great news for the American people, Jackie, and unfortunately we have the Democrats who are running on repealing these tax cuts, and they continue to say that they only benefit, the top earners, even though that just flies in face of the data.
Well, that's my next question, right? Unless one of these jobs, for example, impacted you weren't not employed before and now you are, other people will just look to their paycheck. And there was a period where they did feel that bump, that they were taking a little bit more home. But at the same time, people have a short memory. It feels like it was a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, people need to understand that repealing the tax cuts would cost the average American family almost, or actually the average American worker, almost $27,000. Another really important part of tax cuts was lowering that corporate tax rate to 21%. Prior to tax reform, we had the highest corporate tax rate in the industrialized world. I have a lot of business owners in my family, a lot of family friends who run their own small companies. They will tell you, you lower their taxes, they'll take more chances, expand their company, hire more workers. Business owners and the American people know how to spend their hard-earned dollars better than the government does.
Larry Kudlow has hinted at tax reform 2.0. Your thoughts on what a plan like that would look like?
I mean, we need to make the tax cuts in place right now permanent. That's the first thing that needs to be done. Even if the Democrats are not successful at repealing tax cuts, a lot of the most pro-growth provisions parts of the tax cuts in place right now are set to expire in just a few years. So lawmakers need to focus on this, but also they need to focus on reining in our federal spending, because we can't responsibly continue to spend like we are with these tax cuts in place. So it needs to be a combination of making them permanent and cutting the spending. We've got to stop the out-of-control spending.
Yeah, that's something both sides could certainly work on. Kristin, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jackie. Merry Christmas.
We are going to shift gears.